Hey everyone, welcome back to Pyurologie. I'm Yuri, and today I'm finally bringing you a video that's been highly requested and long overdue. I'll be taking you through the AMD Adrenalin software, breaking down every setting, explaining what each one does, and then sharing my personal settings for Tarkov. Whether you're new to Adrenalin or just looking to fine-tune your setup, this guide should give you a solid starting point and help you get the most out of your system. Let's jump right in. So when you first open the application, you'll see the home screen, which features several tiles acting as shortcuts to commonly used features. One of the most useful tiles here is drivers and software, which displays your current driver version, helping you keep your GPU up to date. Next we have the AI tab. This is a new addition in version 25.3.1. This is a locally hosted AI chatbot designed to answer AMD related questions based on your system. I tested it out, and while it works, it's pretty limited in its current form. Honestly, I only installed it for demonstration purposes. If you're interested in it, it's there. It'll probably improve over time, but most likely I'll probably uninstall this after the video. Moving on, we have the gaming tab where you'll see your list of installed games. If a game isn't detected automatically, you can manually add it using the three dots in the top right. There are also different sorting options to organize your library. Inside the graphics tabs, you'll have some subcategories. In the graphics category, you can configure global graphics settings. If you're running multiple AMD GPUs, they'll be listed separately here. For example, I have a 9800X3D paired with the 9070XT in the system, so both the discrete and integrated GPUs appear here. And lastly, we have the Advisors tab, which generates recommendations based on performance data. Personally, I fine-tune my settings manually, so I don't use this much, but if you're unsure where to start, it can be a useful reference. So we're going to head back to the Games tab and select a specific game. This is where most people spend their time tweaking AMD Adrenalin settings. So I'm going to go ahead and click Escape from Tarkov. At the top, we have Gaming Experience, which lets you choose between automated presets. HyperRX is AMD's one-click optimization. Quality Mode prioritizes graphics fidelity. HyperRX Eco optimizes for power savings. And then you have Default, Custom, and Global Experience. Custom lets you manually adjust everything. Global applies whatever settings you've set in the Global Graphics tab. And then Default obviously puts it back to default. Personally, I'm usually on Custom settings because I fine-tune my own settings. Radeon Super Resolution is a feature that applies AMD's older FSR upscaling to games that don't have built-in FSR support. It can help improve performance by rendering at a lower resolution and then upscaling the image, but if a game already has native FSR, you're probably better off using that instead. Next, we have AMD Fluid Motion Frames. I've covered FMF in detail in previous videos on my channel. If you're interested, check the links in the upper right-hand corner. In short, FMF generates extra frames to boost FPS, making gameplay smoother. However, it works best when you already have 80 to 100 FPS to start with. I always tell people it's useful to make good performance great, but it's not useful for making bad performance good. So for the FMF settings, once you enable it, you'll see a search mode and performance mode. In search mode, standard is for resolutions below 1440, high is for resolutions 1440 and above, or you can leave it on auto to let it choose automatically. Performance mode, this setting adjusts how much overhead FMF adds. The quality and performance options are self-explanatory. Choose on whether you want better visuals or higher FPS. Radeon Anti-Lag is designed to reduce input latency by keeping the CPU and GPU in sync. In theory, this should always improve responsiveness, but in some games it doesn't always work as intended, Tarkov especially. I recommend testing it per game to see if it helps. Radeon Chill, this feature limits FPS to reduce power consumption and heat. It's useful if you're gaming on a laptop or you want to cap your FPS to match your monitor's refresh rate. Radeon Image Sharpening enhances texture clarity and sharpness in games, helping improve image detail, especially in lower resolution upscaled content, but keep in mind that results vary between games. Some may look much clearer, while others may appear overly sharpened or introduce noise. You can use a slider to increase or decrease the effect here. Radeon Enhanced Sync is AMD's alternative to VSync. Unlike traditional VSync, which introduces input lag when capping FPS to match your refresh rate, Enhanced Sync reduces screen tearing without capping FPS. That means you can get smoother gameplay with lower latency compared to standard VSync. However, again, results depend on your game and your system. If you experience stuttering with the setting, you might want to disable it. Wait for vertical refresh. This is just traditional VSync, which synchronizes the frame rate to your monitor's refresh rate to eliminate screen tearing. Unlike Enhanced Sync, this does cap FPS to your monitor's limit, which can introduce input lag in fast-paced games. Next up, we have some advanced settings here. Anti-aliasing helps smooth out jagged edges, also known as the stair-stepping effect, on objects in games. You can use application settings, enhance the game's existing AA, or override it with your own settings. Here's a breakdown of the different types of AA AMD Adrenalin offers. Multi-sampling is the most performance-friendly option. MSAA applies anti-aliasing only to the edges of objects, making it less demanding on your GPU. Adaptive multisampling is similar to MSAA, but selectively applies a mix of MSAA and transparency anti-aliasing to improve edge smoothness while maintaining performance. Super sampling is the most demanding option. It renders the game at a higher resolution and then downscales it, resulting in the smoothest visuals, but at a bigger FPS cost. AMD morphological anti-aliasing is a post-processing anti-aliasing method that applies smoothing across the entire image. Similar to FXAA in NVIDIA, it's less demanding than super sampling, but can sometimes make the image look blurry, so use this on a case-by-case basis. Next, we have anisotropic filtering. This improves texture clarity at oblique viewing angles. In simple terms, it helps keep faraway textures sharp and clear, especially in open world games. The higher the anisotropic filtering level, the better the texture clarity, but higher settings do increase GPU load slightly. Texture filtering quality controls how aggressively textures are optimized for performance versus quality. Options include high, standard, and performance. Performance reduces texture quality slightly to improve FPS. Balance mixes performance and quality. And high quality uses the best possible texture filtering, but at a small FPS cost. Surface format optimization. This setting optimizes specific texture formats to improve performance in some games. While it usually has minimal impact, it can help in older or less optimized games. If you experience graphical glitches or artifacts, try turning it off. So tessellation mode. This affects how detailed 3D surfaces and objects appear by dynamically increasing polygon count. Options include using the application settings, overriding the application settings, or using AMD optimized settings. Setting this to lower levels can improve FPS in some games, while higher settings make objects look more detailed but at a performance cost. OpenGL triple buffering. This setting is useful for OpenGL based games like older titles and some emulators. It works in conjunction with VSync, adding a third frame buffer to smooth frame pacing and reduce stutter. However, this also can increase input lag, so it's best suited for games that need a more stable frame rate rather than ultra fast responsiveness. Moving over to the right side over here, we have AMD Freesync. Freesync is AMD's adaptive sync technology that eliminates screen tearing and reduces stuttering by synchronizing your monitor's refresh rate with your GPU's frame rate. This ensures a much smoother and more fluid gameplay experience, especially in games with fluctuating FPS. There are 3 settings available on this option. AMD Optimize, which automatically applies AMD's recommended settings for your specific display. On forces Freesync to stay enabled as long as the monitor supports it. Off disables it entirely. Scaling mode controls how the GPU scales the image when the game's resolution is lower than your monitor's native resolution. The 3 options are center, full panel, and preserve aspect ratio. Center displays the image at its original resolution in the center of the screen with black borders around it. Full panel will stretch the image to fit the entire screen. Preserve aspect ratio expands the image to fit the entire screen while maintaining the original aspect ratio, preventing stretching. For most users, leave it on the global default or preserve aspect ratio to avoid distortion. Integer scaling is designed for retro and pixel art games. Instead of smoothing or stretching the image, it scales pixels in perfect 2x, 3x, or 4x ratios, preserving sharp edges and clarity. This is great for older games and emulators, but may result in black borders if the scaling doesn't perfectly fit your display. Custom color. This allows you to manually adjust color settings such as brightness, contrast, hue, and saturation directly through Adrenalin. It works similarly to the NVIDIA control panel's color settings, allowing you to fine-tune colors if your display's built-in settings aren't enough. Display color enhancement. This feature lets you adjust how colors appear on your screen by using presets that modify contrast, vibrance, and saturation. Some displays may have washed out colors by default, so tweaking this setting can make games look more vivid and punchy. Options include vivid gaming and dynamic contrast. Vivid gaming increases saturation for more intense colors, which works well for vibrant games. Dynamic contrast increases the contrast level. Color deficiency correction. This setting is designed for colorblind players, allowing adjustments for different types of colorblindness to make in-game visuals clearer. The available modes include protanopia, Deuteranopia, and Tritonopia. Next, we're going to look at the Record and Stream tab. This gives you access to AMD's Adrenalin built-in game recording and streaming features, also called AMD Relive. While most people use OBS or other dedicated software, this is a simple way to record gameplay, live stream, and manage save clips directly within Adrenalin. So there are 5 different subcategories under the main Record and Stream tab: Record, Live Stream, Scene Editor, Media, and Settings. In the Record tab, you have quick access to start and stop gameplay recordings. In the Live Stream tab, this lets you connect to platforms like YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook and stream directly from Adrenalin. In Scene Editor, this is a basic tool for customizing stream layouts, similar to OBS's scene management. The Media tab allows you to view, manage, and delete previously recorded videos and screenshots. And Settings is pretty self-explanatory. There are different settings here. So I'll go over the settings here. Record Desktop. When this is enabled, this allows recording outside of games, including your full desktop. This is useful for tutorials or non-gaming content. If turned off, only gameplay footage can be captured. Show Indicator displays a small on-screen status indicator when recording is active. You can turn it on or off. Borderless Region Capture allows recording of borderless windowed applications instead of just full-screen games. It's useful if you're multitasking or using multiple monitors. The Recording Profile controls the quality and performance impact of your recordings. You can use a low, medium, or high preset or a custom preset. Mine is on custom right now. The recording resolution allows you to choose the resolution of your recorded videos. You can record at native resolution or downscale for smaller file sizes. Recording FPS is the frames per second of the recording. It determines how smooth the recording looks. You can choose between 30, 60, 90, and 120. Video bitrate controls the video quality and file size. Basically, higher bitrate equals better quality but larger files. The recommended ranges for 1080 60 FPS is 10 to 15. For 1440 60 FPS is 20 to 30. For 4K 60 FPS is 40 to 50. I just max mine out all the time. If you need to save space though, you can use those recommended values to get the best balance of quality and file size. Audio bitrate affects sound clarity. 128 is standard quality, 192 is better clarity, and it's good for most use cases. 320 is the highest quality, useful for professional audio. Video encoding type. This determines which codec is used for compression. AVC is H.264, which has the best compatibility and is widely supported. HEVC is H.265. It's better quality for the same bitrate, but not all platforms support it. AV1 is the newest and most efficient, but requires modern GPUs and supported platforms. Enhanced filtering. This improves image clarity in compressed recordings. If it's on, it reduces blockiness and artifacts in fast-moving scenes. Turning it off saves some performance, but it may be a slightly lower quality recording. Audio channels lets you choose between stereo or auto. I just leave it on auto most of the time. Separate microphone track. This records your microphone on a separate audio track from your video, allowing for better audio editing and post-processing. This is useful for YouTubers and streamers who want to balance game and mic audio later. Record microphone. This enables microphone recording alongside gameplay. It can be set to always on or controlled via push to talk. The mic level is pretty self-explanatory. It controls your mic volume in the recordings. The audio boost function amplifies low mic volume. Just be careful if you use this. Too much boost can cause distortion. If you go over to the right here, we have similar settings for live streaming. You can archive your streams if you'd like. And then down in the media section, you can choose where your video files get saved. Instant replay is a function that records gameplay in the background and allows you to save the last few minutes with a hotkey. Instead of manually recording everything, this feature ensures you never miss a great moment while saving storage space. So you can change the instant replay duration here, and you can change the instant replay buffer here. Instant GIF is similar to instant replay but saves short clips as GIFs instead of full video files. It's useful for quick highlights, memes, or social media sharing. So you can change the duration here and the quality here. In-game replay allows you to watch replays in-game without leaving the match. This is helpful for reviewing plays, analyzing mistakes, or creating content without third-party software. Again, you can change the duration, the size, and the position here. The audio capture device. This selects which microphone or audio input is used for recordings and streams. You can use this menu to select your preference here. Video capture device. This allows you to connect and use an external camera or capture card for streaming or recording. Usually it's going to be a webcam or a capture card. Next, we have the performance tab. This provides real-time monitoring, tuning, and overclocking options for your GPU and CPU if it's AMD. It's divided into different sections. So first we have the metrics section. This displays real-time data about your system's performance. You can track various metrics here and choose which ones you want to see based on your preferences. Right now I have them all enabled, so you'll see everything displayed. but you can pick and choose what you want to see by using this icon here. Okay, you can change the sampling interval for FPS and latency metrics here, and for hardware metrics here. So you can enable the metrics here, and if you want them to show in the overlay, you can use this icon here. This one will enable or disable metric logging. Additionally, you can have a performance metrics overlay. You can select different options for the visualization of that overlay here. And customize that pretty extensively. Next, we have the tuning section. This section allows manual adjustments for fine-tuning performance and power efficiency. I've tuned my CPU through my BIOS, so it detects that and tells me that it's already overclocked here. On the GPU, I have it on default settings, but you can use these different presets that favor efficiency, performance, or you can do a custom tune yourself. There's also an automatic overclocking function here, which is useful for people who are unfamiliar but want to squeeze more performance out of their GPU. If you want to have different profiles for different games, you can do that here. Moving on to the settings tab, you can change the graphing duration, enable the metrics overlay from here as well. You can change where the performance logs are saved, and it also allows you to hide metrics overlay during logging. Lastly, we have the Smart Technology tab. I honestly don't use these much, but AMD noise suppression reduces background audio noise. You can set it up here if you want to use it. AMD Privacy View is a function that tracks your eye movements using a webcam and only shows the part of the screen you're looking at. This is a privacy function. I've never really used it, but if you want to take advantage of it, it's here. AMD Smart Access Video is a way to accelerate transcoding and video editing. Basically, there are some apps that will allow you to use this feature. Go ahead and use the list on AMD.com to find those apps. AMD Smart Access Memory is similar to resizable bar. If you have an AMD GPU and CPU, you can enable this function through the BIOS. Moving on to the settings overview. If you click the gear icon here, Snap Settings allows you to export your custom Adrenalin settings as a profile and import previously saved profiles as well. This makes it easy to restore preferred configs after driver update or system reset. Factory reset, this is pretty self-explanatory. It just resets all the settings to default. Reset game stats clears all recorded game performance data from Adrenalin. Issue reporting lets users report software bugs, driver issues, or unexpected behavior directly to AMD. There's a tool here. Issue detection runs diagnostics to detect potential driver-related issues, crashes, or conflicts. If it's enabled, it will automatically do that in the background. There's an About tab here that lets you see the version you're running. Over on the right side, we have the hardware and driver section, which will display AMD hardware details from the CPU and GPU. You can see the hardware details here, software and driver details here for all AMD equipment in the system. Next, we have the display settings. While some of these options overlap with what we covered earlier, there are a few key differences worth mentioning. First, there's virtual super resolution. This allows you to render games at a higher resolution than your display supports and then downscale it for improved image quality. It can help reduce aliasing and make textures look sharper, though it may come with a performance cost. Next, we have color depth. This determines the bit depth of colors displayed on your screen. Most monitors use 8-bit, but some high-end displays support 10-bit or higher, so you can choose this accordingly. Pixel format lets you choose how color data is processed and sent to your display. I have never changed this option, but you do have some different selections here. Additionally, you can look at some detailed specifications for your connected display. You can also create custom resolutions here and override HDCP support. Moving on, we have the audio and video tab. This allows you to enable or disable AMD noise suppression. You can also select different video profiles here. Next, the Hotkey tab displays all the available shortcuts within AMD Adrenalin. The ones I use most are Alt-R to open the UI, Control-Shift-O to toggle the performance overlay, Control-Shift-E to toggle recording, and Control-Alt-L to toggle performance logging. Next, we have the Relive VR tab. This is for VR users. I don't have a VR headset, so I've actually never used this tab. Finally, we have the Preferences tab, which allows you to enable or disable certain functions. The key settings to pay attention here are the in-game overlay. This lets you access the Adrenalin features without leaving your game. Advertisements, which controls whether or not AMD will show promotional content within the app. Notifications, which will determine whether or not you can get pop-up notifications. The AMD User Experience Program, which collects your usage information. And the AMD Image Inspector, which collects images from your system in the background. So I prefer not to have my data collected in the background, and I prefer not to have images taken from my system in the background as well, mostly for the performance impact. Alright, so here are my Adrenalin settings for Escape from Tarkov. I've found that most settings don't make a noticeable difference in either visual quality or performance. However, there are a few key ones that are worth paying attention to. First is fluid motion frames. I've done several videos on FMF in Tarkov, and the TLDR is that it's very good, even with the added input latency that comes with frame generation. As long as you have 80 to 100 FPS to start with, I think FMF works very well and it's worth using. AMD has continually improved it with updates, reducing input latency while maintaining and improving image quality. I've demonstrated FMF on a budget-friendly 5600 X3D plus 6600 XT, where it pushed 160 plus FPS on streets, even during intense PMC fights, proving that responsiveness isn't negatively impacted. I've also recently featured it on a high-end 9800 X3D plus 9070 XT system, and FMF helped it reach 300 plus FPS on streets, sometimes even hitting 400. So in short, I definitely recommend trying it out for yourself. Anti-lag is a feature that's meant to reduce input latency, but I've personally experienced stuttering in Tarkov when using it, so I leave it disabled. Image sharpening. I recently started using 50% image sharpening in Tarkov, and it helps make distant objects sharper and easier to see. This can be useful for spotting enemies at range. So I've tested all the anti-aliasing and anisotropic filtering options in the advanced section, and they don't impact visual quality in EFT, so I leave them all on default. I don't like using Freesync or G-Sync personally, so I leave the setting on the default AMD optimized. Color settings. This is where you can make a big difference in visibility. I turn on custom color settings and increase brightness and saturation. This is equivalent to raising gamma and digital vibrance in the NVIDIA control panel. I prefer this over PostFX in Tarkov because PostFX applies effects at the game engine level, which can impact performance. Adrenalin's color settings apply at the driver level, giving you better visibility without a performance hit. So these are the settings I focus on for Tarkov and AMD Adrenalin. If you're running an AMD GPU, give these a try and see what works best for you. Alright, that's all I've got for this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you got something out of it, please consider dropping a like and subscribing, or even becoming a channel member. It really helps support the channel. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below or join the pyurologie Discord. We've got over 1,300 friendly and knowledgeable members, and you can also always message me directly. My username is Puri. I'm always open to chat, and I do answer every direct message. If you're looking for one-on-one consultation, optimization, or troubleshooting, this is a perk available once a month to Tier 3 Pyurologie Titanium members on YouTube. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.